For those with good taste.
So, moving on, Matt, I had a big question for you.
What's a big question?
Are you a wizard? Are you a wizard, mate? No, I don't know. Good.
Is that your British accent?
Yeah, it's somewhere in there.
We're going to scrape that.
You're a wizard, Harry.
Are you a wizard, Harry?
Are you?
Are you a wizard, Harry?
I'm gonna blame this on my voice being shot, dude.
Come on, Harry.
Come on, Harry.
Come on, you're a wizard, Harry.
Yeah.
Come on.
So those of you out there, there's big news coming
I
out.
could do this entire episode like that, but I won't.
Well, I'm sure people are obsessed already with your accents.
Or offended.
This is the first episode since like the third one we did where I've allowed you to do an accent because it's normally.
I have to get a disclaimer first.
Yeah. And the problem was I usually allow you to make the accents because mine are just like
awful, god awful.
Are you a wizard, Matt?
I'm not a wizard, Len, but I know who is a wizard. And I know that this is another bit of news that you are just slapping your nipples about.
Yep, I'm milking them all over the place.
I got nipples, Fokker. Can you milk me? Yeah, Harry Potter.
Weird one, yeah. I think I'm happy if they do it. I can't imagine a world where they do it the way I want them to.
That's an interesting take. Tell me a little bit more.
And we didn't really. So they're talking about doing a Harry Potter series.
Do we ever set up anything properly?
We just kind of like talk like people know what we're talking about. So HBOmax is talking about venturing into the Harry Potter world once again. You know, Fantastic Beasts has been kind of an up and down property for them. Came out really strong. The last one was critically not a huge success. There's been a lot of negative energy around this most recent one that's going to be coming out. The third Crimes of Grindelwald or whatever it's going to be. But now we're here where they're talking about doing a TV series and maybe just switching focus where movies aren't going to make money now anyways. So why not go that way? Now
you're gonna see, and we've talked about it in the past here, a lot of these networks broadcast, they're going to start taking that avenue of breaking down some of these bigger pictures and allowing it to be bingeable content.
The reason I say that I don't think it's going to end up being what I want it to be is I can't envision Daniel Radcliffe or what's her name? Who plays Hermione?
Emma Watson?
Emma Watson, yes. Or Rupert Grint wanting to reprise their roles at this point in a TV series fashion. Like, could I have envisioned them coming back for like a one-off movie or something maybe there? But to commit yourself, we talked about this recently with like Batman or Batwoman, right? Like
the amount of commitments that it takes
there's
to
a big
film a show.
Yeah, to doing these things. And it's like, could I see that people that for all intents and purposes aren't mainstream actors, like they're successful actors, definitely, right? Emma Watson's very successful, but has kind of strived to do things a little off the beaten path in a way. It almost feels like I don't know that I could see them come back and reprise the role. And if I'm not getting those three characters coming back to that universe, I don't know that it's going to get me back for a TV show.
Hearing you say that, it makes it kind of difficult for me as like a casual Harry Potter fan, because I would have to wonder just what direction you're going to go in.
Yeah.
The scope of things is probably too small a scale to bring back some of the higher, the bigger name actors.
I think what you would have to do is follow the most recent book, and I hate that the name's escaping me right now. But it basically focuses on Harry as an adult and his son. And I think that'd be interesting because his son Albus is kind of has an interesting look at what Harry's life is, because it's like growing up with this celebrity dad who can do no wrong, and you have to grow up in kind of the shadow of this larger than life person and never really feel like you're good enough to reach that level, you know?
There's always a level of expectation that's set on you that you're probably never going to be able to achieve, and you're just constantly trying to live up to that hype.
It can't, it definitely can. It definitely can't be easy. And so, I think that would be really interesting. And it leads to a bunch of other events with, time traveling and all of that. So it's not even a book. It's actually like a short play. They were doing it.
Okay.
They were doing it live on Broadway for a little while there. And I would have loved to have gone to it, but I saw the tickets were like insanely priced for them at the time.
I mean, it's Broadway, Len.
That's fair. Yeah, Broadway and it's Harry Potter. So it's
you're not getting on Broadway with a Groupon, my guy. Like, that's just not how those things
look up
work.
Harry Potter play, because I think that's how you'll find that. And it's not really The Cursed Child. That's what it's called.
Harry
Potter and the Cursed Child.
I did my job.
If they followed along with that, it would make it an interesting kind of turn. Otherwise, I'll wait and see. I don't want to just pan it and say it's going to be terrible, but it's going to be hard to crack my interest. If you all of a sudden, if there's a report that comes out though that any of those three characters, or especially if all three of them are willing to come back and take part in it in a like a reoccurring
capacity,
like real role in it, yeah, I'm there in a heartbeat.
Because at that point you would have to, right? You'd have to be invested in what's going to happen.
I think the numbers would be insane. Yeah. I mean, that's a fan base that has gone nowhere. Like, people who love Harry Potter still love Harry Potter to this day. If J.K. Rowling puts out more books, even though she's like a terrible person who says awful things on the internet, like, she'd probably have all of us reading it again,
I think we could all say the same thing about George R.R. Martin.
There you go. Yeah.
In the same sense, right? Yeah. I definitely don't have that feel for Harry Potter, but I do have that feel for Game of Thrones.
Yeah, and you would jump right back in, yeah.
Yeah, you bring me back Sean Bean in any way. Sign me up.
Find a way.
Yeah, I'm ready to go.
I mean, that's a whole other conversation, because you say that about Game of Thrones, but are you like, do you really care about the prequel things that they're working on or any of that? I'm not getting a real
because I'm kind of
I'm
a content whore. You and I have had conversations like this. I will jump into stuff that I have no business watching or reading or anything. But if it's something that I'm interested in and you're willing to fill in some gaps on some certain storylines, yeah, I'll definitely partake in it. Am I going to be emotionally invested in it? Am I going to be, seething at the mouth to get it? I don't think so.
Yeah, I haven't really gotten a pulse from like people who I know who are around me that were really big Game of Thrones fans, that they're like, yearning for this additional content. I think it's probably because the end of that left such a sour taste.
I was thinking about this, and I would love to ask people what their what's a big show that stands out to you, and did it end the exact way that you wanted it to? A, or B, did it finish anywhere near as good as you thought it would?
Yeah.
And I'd be interested to see what they would say, because I've had conversations with people about Game of Thrones like, oh yeah, that last season, man, made me never want to watch it again. These same people will tell me that The Wire is one of the best shows ever. And I've seen the last season of The Wire. Guess what? Pretty underwhelming.
We're off in a whole other conversation than what we wanted to get to. But I think I think part of that is because when a show goes on for 4 seasons, you're able to be a lot more forgiving than a show that goes for 6 or 7, but it took them 10 years.
Yeah, I guess.
And I think that's a lot of what the issue is with Game of Thrones, is that I've always said that for me, I have a much more forgiving reaction to that series because I saw it in such a short period of time from start to finish, right? Like, it took me a long time to get to want to watch it, but once I did, I banged it out and caught up to the very last couple episodes, right? For you had to sit through long waits to get shit that wasn't good.
I started watching as soon as they wrapped up season 3. So I wrapped up those first 3 seasons very quickly, and then I had to wait for every season.
And then think about anybody who was starting at season 1. It's like, because now it's like part of you for a good portion of your life. 10 years of somebody's life. For a lot of us, that means we were that's a third of our life that we were waiting
we're
for
getting
a
old,
show, right? And I think that's where you're gonna have maybe a little bit harsher of a criticism for it. Whereas like The Wire goes for 4 years, 4 seasons. And it's like burn, things shoot up and then burn out quickly.
Yeah, so. I guess The Wire is probably not the best mention, but it would bring me to what we kind of wanted to talk a little bit about. There's so much conversation around movies that are being broken down into TV shows. HBOmax taking a look at Harry Potter is one of them. We've heard rumors of the Lord of the Rings.
Not rumors, confirmed.
Amazon
Prime.
I told you I like it when it's juicy gossip. If it's juicy gossip, it's for me. So I got to call it a rumor, but they've been confirmed.
This seems like juicy facts.
Juicy facts. I don't know if I want to call them that. Juice, you still eating juicy fruit?
That's nasty.
I was going to say,
it's a really bad gum.
You should not be eating sticks of gum at this time.
Do you think we could get away with doing a top 5 episode of just like packs of gum?
As long as we're talking about zebra stripe.
That's not a good one either. I was thinking, what's the one where you what's the one that had like
bubble tape?
Bubble tape. Yeah.
Oh, you can talk about some bubble
flavor,
tape,
but it was a really cool concept.
No flavor, but I just enjoyed being able to take a roll out and just snapping it.
Lord of the
Rings.
We
digress. Lord of the Rings coming out with a TV show. It begs the question: do great movies have the tendency or ability to be good TV shows, and maybe even vice versa? Do great TV shows really deliver on being good movies? Where do you fall on that, Len?
I think I lean more towards the latter, the former rather. That I think it's easier to be a great TV show and then transfer into No, I think the other way. Sorry.
A good movie into a
and then
TV
to
show?
a TV show, because I think once you establish characters over 2 hours or 4 hours, however many movies you do that people really like, now you might want to see expansion on those, or you might want to see smaller stories about certain characters. Whereas a lot of the times the other way, to me, there's very few things that are able to meet the scale of a major motion picture when you're going from the small screen. Because this is something we didn't even think about before we filmed it, but it's probably an issue here. People who direct TV don't direct movies. Right. And just that fact alone, you don't have the vision for the stunts.
It's a completely different style.
Yeah, like it, and I think that's where it's really hard. Versus, you can take somebody who's watched the film version, has seen the basis of these characters, and trust that now when they bring it into a smaller thing, they're actually going to pick up on fine details. Because I think TV is more to, like, you know, build like a contextual idea about somebody, right?
It's about setting the environment quickly so that you can invest more in the characters. Where movies, we're getting so blessed with some of the cinematic viewings that we see, where it's a lot of, hey, look at how great this shot looks, but then there's also a movie going on. Yeah,
because as we've like gone through a lot of this, we didn't have a lot of really good examples of TV shows that transfer to movies. Because, you know, a big one for me that popped into my head, and I didn't even know you had it on the list here, is Miami Vice.
Yes.
Like, I didn't watch Miami Vice, the TV show, but people love the feel of it. And I know people hate the movie. And a lot of the reason they hate the movie is it doesn't feel like Miami Vice. It's not fun. Miami Vice is like a fun TV show. And like the movie is like awful.
I feel like that movie was directed and produced by Colin Farrell. And it was just like, hey, you want to see how much of a badass I could be?
Yeah, I'm going to ride on a boat.
I'm going to ride on a boat.
A bunch.
Bang this Asian chick out here. Drive out to Cuba, even though that's not technically allowed. Like, there's just so many things where you're just like, dude, I don't follow this movie at all.
You remember way more about that movie than I.
I think I just wanted to take the moment to just bash Colin Farrell real quick. I put a couple on the list here because I thought about it in this sense that a lot of the movies that you would think that come from TV shows, it's from a lot of older TV shows that they kind of had to rehash. One that came to mind that kind of stuck out for me in a different way was Transformers. Most kids or people who watch Transformers maybe didn't even remember what the TV show was or how it kind of came to be. Then there's that side of people who are huge fans, right? And they love the movies.
Well,
but
we're of the age where, at least for me, like, I grew up with the action figures. Like, I had the Transformers action figures. I loved, like, some of them were hard to actually get them to kind of transform, right?
I broke a lot of them trying to transform them.
But I loved those, and yeah, I think you're right. Like, that's definitely a TV series. Even G.I. Joe, they brought back, right?
That was another one I was going to
G.I. Joe, the TV series, was great when we were younger, and then like the movies
hit or miss,
aren't great, but I think they do something to recapture it. Yeah. The second one maybe being a bit better than the first one.
Well, it's because you get The Rock kind of jumping into a role that, even though he's not the main character, he brought like that G.I. Joe kind of action to
Rumors of a third one with him and Channing Tatum in it, which would be cool.
Again, sign me up. Let's talk about
couple dreamboats.
And the last one I thought about for shows, the movie Star Trek. I think Star Trek was one of the ones that kind of did well, but they also did well for movies even before they did the remake. So I think that's a kind of special genre.
I didn't even want to say Star Trek because I'm afraid of like all the Trekkies out there. Like, Steve, back off, dude.
Don't. We're not treading into this water.
Yeah.
I'm just bringing it up as an example. What we'll do is we'll move over for movies that became TV shows. And this was kind of an interesting one because the findings that we had were that a lot of these kind of jumped into animated shows rather than live action.
Well, I think it goes back to what I was just saying, right? Is like, it all comes down to scale.
Yeah.
And it's hard to take Godzilla in the form of like a movie and then bring it into a live action TV show, right? It would be too expensive probably to do it. Even The Mummy, to make it look great, I think would be a hard movie to do. So you're able to do all those visual effects in the animation world, especially these shows were 10 some odd years ago when like it's true animation too. Not that it's not animated now. But.
No, but I get what you're saying is it's not like Pixar animation, so to speak.
It's a lot of like CGI, like it's not body capture people, it's actually drawn. And
you're more focused on the color and the art and the style. But do you think that could possibly, you did mention how movies are just too large a scale to kind of scale back for TV. I've brought up Marco Polo way more on this show than I think it deserves. But
nobody had ever even heard of it till you brought it up. I swear their viewership went up just because you said it.
Well, you're welcome. Give me a third season.
Yeah. I heard if you subscribe to us Marco Polo.
You
gets
feed
third
a
season.
child who watched Marco Polo somewhere in Europe.
That's super cool.
But we're
Get back.
seeing more money invested into TV series now, where they are trying to capture that cinematic look. We're seeing that more now, but when we looked at a lot of these animated shows, this was 10, 15 years ago. What do you think it was about some of these that they needed to kind of capture the essence and make it a show? Like we saw The Mask, we talked about Men in Black, the animated series.
I think the approach is just different. And, I was going to mention, like, not a direct change, but like you had Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., right?
Yeah.
A direct correlation to the Marvel Universe. And we talked about a few weeks back how there's going to be an opportunity to kind of change the scope of how Marvel's been built. Yeah. Because if they can't make money off of the movie theater, now we need to kind of change the structure of how we were going to build this universe. And now, if you have your own platform. So if Disney is going to make 100% of the profits off of people coming to them to watch their content, right? They don't need anybody else to distribute it. They can say, hey, instead of putting $200 and something million into another movie, let's put that $200 million spread across 3 of our shows, and we can make WandaVision look great. We can make Captain
Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
I got you,
sure,
buddy. It's okay.
Have them look like a real movie, but in a TV show format.
I gave him a promotion. I said Captain Falcon.
I know,
that's cool. You're welcome, buddy.
That's where I got myself mixed up because I was going to call him Captain too. A show that comes to mind, right? Hawaii Five-0, right? I loved the first few seasons of the reboot of that TV series. I was a huge fan because a lot of the action stuff in it felt like it could be, it was a little below movie standards. But I look at some of that, what you can do with a good TV show and kind of blur those lines and then say, if you give them even more money to do with it, the visual effects, I think you could change the game for the fact that a lot of the drawbacks I think you had 15 years ago was you weren't going to get the enough funding to make a Godzilla movie look good or a good Godzilla TV show. And then if it doesn't look good, we're never going to watch, because if I see a guy in a puppet costume being Godzilla, it's just going to remind me of the 70s or 80s, and it might be good for a laugh, but it's not going to be good for reoccurring viewing.
Yeah. I mean, we have seen recent success with bringing back older movies or older genre type movies and making them available for TV. So Cobra Kai, we talked about on Netflix, being something that we
reinvigorated that.
Yeah, that franchise. Yeah. And again, kind of bringing that culture and that fandom back to life. We talked a little bit about The Mandalorian on here. I know you haven't watched it. I'm a huge fan. But what they've been able to do with the Star Wars franchise, making those bigger movies, compartmentalizing them into great TV. I say great TV. I use that term loosely all the time. Feel free to debate me, but I loved what they were able to do with The Mandalorian. And we can also talk about shows that we've never even watched, but we have heard great reviews about. Bates Motel, Ash vs. Evil Dead. There's these shows that are now creating their own fandoms, their own cultures. We could probably start being on the cusp of kind of making that a regular thing with a lot of these newer shows.
Yeah, I think this 10 years, this decade for TV,
it's huge.
Is going to be bigger than any of them going forward. Because, I'm running huge. We didn't, I won't spend a ton of time in here, but because we're not going to get into a WandaVision reaction to this week's episode, I think maybe save it for next week. We can do 2 at once.
I think that makes more sense.
But we were talking about how I just really wasn't interested this week. I didn't have a huge want or need to watch it. And I think that some of it is over the past 10 years with Netflix and all these other streaming services, we've been built to watch things in short bursts, like binge everything. And I do think that is something where we're going to have to kind of teeter a line with some of this stuff where it's in order to evolve TV, I don't think that the attention spans allows us to wait a week between episodes as much. I liked that WandaVision gave us 2 episodes. I would almost prefer dropping 4 episodes at a time or whatever it is.
And that's where I said Apple TV Plus was doing it right. They were dropping, I think it was 3 or 4 episodes at a time. And then, but still, I'm always going to be greedy, and you're mentioning it right now.
Yeah.
You can't make me, if you're giving me 4 episodes, you're just giving me more stuff that I need to watch.
Because I think we're saying transferring from movie to TV, but I think they have to realize that we watch TVs like they're movies now in a way, What'd
you just do?
If we have 8 hours, if we have 8 hours of content to watch and we have a day off, we're gonna watch all 8 hours of it as if we're watching a whole sitting of a movie.
Yeah. Definitely.
Because it's not that we like, as long as it's good, of course. So I was like, I've complained.
I've
a little
watched
bit,
bad stuff, but yeah.
I've complained a little bit about Daredevil, right? Like
Yeah.
how it takes a long time. Like I really like that series, but sometimes with it felt like it took forever to like get somewhere.
Yeah.
But if it's 10 if the Defender series was only 8 episodes, it's like
Action
I'm
packed.
gonna sit there and it had even some
Not
slow
action
moments
packed,
there,
but it
like,
was packed with
it's
good
compact
stuff.
enough to where in one day I'll sit there for a whole day and just watch it because
Yeah.
I want to get to I know something's coming.
Want to
Like,
get to the meat and potatoes.
Get to it, you know. Versus the other way here, you know, if you do find a show that you love, and you know, for me, The Walking Dead would be a good example of this. That like I have pretty much patiently waited through a lot of that series because DVR and shit didn't really become as much of a thing for me, at least until the later seasons.
Yeah.
So in the initial build, those first six seasons or whatever that everybody loved, the first 4 seasons that everybody loved, we kind of were like every week waiting for the next episode.
And certain episodes weren't giving you jack, dude.
Mhm.
I've talked about it why I kind of lost interest, and then got honey-dicked right back into it.
But now you get to a point where you're able to build up to you know, a movie, and I had a question for that is like, do you think when they build up to a movie from a TV show, the same way we're saying that like, hey, you might have trouble like realizing the scale coming from a movie down to a TV show, but it is hard to scale up that other way. How would you feel being a director of The Walking Dead for like however many years? You've been a major component of it, and then you're all of a sudden they're like, but we're gonna go with a huge director for the movie. Like we need a movie theater director.
But we're also gonna bring you on as an advising director.
Sure. Like, is it like a slap in the face a little bit to your property? Do you think is that a drawback for why people might not want to do it?
I think that's one of the biggest things that's kind of holding Hollywood back is just the amount of ego that goes into. I mean, we've seen it with actors like the Fast and the Furious franchise between Vin Diesel and The Rock, kind of dick measuring to see who's gonna get the holster or grant possession of the franchise to do with what they want. In this instance, if you're a TV director and you're killing a show, you're doing fantastic, you're getting all of the hype and the praise, it would be almost impossible for you to take a backseat on a movie role. I think it would be, unless you're that director who doesn't have that ego, isn't really caring about the credits to the role, you just want to see your work continue to progress, that's going to hold Hollywood back because I don't think there's that many people out there.
You know, there is definitely like a dick measuring contest thing that comes into it. However, I do think part of it could be that it's like JV and varsity, right?
Yeah.
And I think for the movie side of it, it's like, hey, sir, who's been heavily involved in this successful
cute.
TV series.
That's cute.
Yeah, but like there's levels to this, right?
Yeah.
And like, hey, you've got to pay your dues and do some smaller things before they're going to give you this. And like, I'm the guy who has the vision that's going to take this. Like,
you may have been making those shows in San Francisco, but we're filming in LA. Like, it's that whole mentality.
Because imagine, like, I'm sure they would love to be like, hey, The Walking Dead's been great for 11 seasons, but we want Justin Lin to come in and like direct like this balls to the wall, like action version of our show. You know, like I think that's an interesting part to where like there's so many components that make this work either way, whether your show is going to be successful on the other side. As we've seen, these shows that are successful, it seems as though they're able to take the characters that they have and build them into a smaller like world. You know,
they're picking it directly from.
Yeah, you focus on specifics about the characters and you make a good show on it. But then you can see other shows that have come along that just don't necessarily see what the vision was of the movie or maybe what made it as popular as a movie, and vice versa. I'm sure it happens all the time. I mean, we've looked at some of them here, but you know, Miami Vice is always going to stick as one that just did it the worst.
Yeah,
you know?
It did it the worst, and I do think that your question does pose something very interesting because now that we've mentioned it several times here, where these movie directors or these cinematic films are going to have to be downscaled in order to really profit from viewership. You're going to have to try and get in contact with those TV guys who have been doing it extremely well. And now JV versus varsity has kind of been flipped on its head. Mm-hmm. Now we get to see TV writers and directors, things like that, where they're going to kind of maybe be put in the viewership of, hey, you're the expert here. We got to try and figure out how to take Star Wars, you know, The Force Awakens, break that down and build out a story of a prequel. You got to build that for us.
What is the 2 characters that we could take from here and build a storyline that lasts 5 to 10 episodes that we can have a nice arc around, you know, and what are some supporting characters that we can bring in to help progress these stories, and like things that, like, movies obviously need that, but I think we're more forgiving to movies on an action basis, or it's 2 hours. It's only so much you can do, and a lot of them can go shorter. Like what ends up happening with a lot of movies is like, hey, they film 2 hours, but then it sucks, so they cut it down to an hour and a half, because who could hate an hour and a half movie?
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times I've come out of a movie and been like you could ask me, hey, how'd you feel about that? And I'm like, it was only an hour and 20. So it's it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
Am I going to tell you to run out and watch it? No, but if it's on, like, yeah, watch it. But if it was 2 hours and there was 40 minutes of filler in it, I'd be like, never.
That movie was god awful.
Yeah, never watch that again. Like, never.
That is interesting. I think I may have just cracked the code on why you are interested more in movies than you are TV shows, just because of the amount of time that you can waste.
Immediate satisfaction. Like movies,
Yeah.
movies have 3 parts, right? Like the beginning, the middle, and the end. Whereas shows have a lot of filler episodes. I talked about Hawaii Five-0 earlier, and like that's like that's like like syndicated TV,
Yeah.
right? The reason I fell out of love with something like that is in between these episodes that progress actual storylines, and I'm sure people. I feel like I was talking to somebody about this the other day with what's the one where they have all the sex offenders? SVU. Thank you.
You're gonna have to stop setting yourself up with these weird cliffhangers, because I'm like,
Well, you should have said Chris Hansen.
I immediately thought Chris Hansen, but I was like, he's not syndicated.
But with like anybody who's watched SVU, like
Yeah.
you've gotten the progression of the lady cop there who's been on for like 15 seasons. Her character.
I think you could just call her a cop, dude.
But I wanted to, like, there's a lot of cops, so it could have been Ice-T if I said that.
I don't think he's that popular in that show.
No, he definitely is. He's fucking
No,
Ice-T, dude.
He's the one who introduces the case. He's like, hey, this guy over here slapped a kid with a milk bottle, looking at 2 years.
Yeah, he's very important, dude. Okay. He's very important to the whole process. But you've watched for 15 years, so you could go and tell me that, like, this, like, dude, that like she has this happen and this happen and this happen and this happen. The same thing I did to you with Walking Dead, right? And it's like, but you just have to watch through a lot of bullshit to get there.
Yeah, hopefully people trust their friends and advisors as much as I trust you on shows, because
shows
I've had
have
to
so
dig
much
through some shit.
TV does have a lot of fillers. I think that's why the Game of Thrones thing, it's like, are we really that excited for it? Because there's no actor in it that's like, I want to go see that person.
Well, you don't like Kit Harington, dude?
Well, he's not in the...
I know, but you don't like Kit Harington if he were to just show up?
Well, but he can't. There's like, isn't there like hundreds of years between
there
these
definitely
ones?
is. There definitely is.
So this is my point. Like, that's why I'm not actually excited. I think I'd be excited if they had have said, hey, we're going to give you a spinoff where it's him.
Yeah.
It's what's going to happen.
Banging chicks beyond the wall.
There we go.
That'd be dope.
If you called it Beyond the Wall and it was just about what happens to him when he goes out there, like, I'd be like, okay, I can watch 10 episodes of that.
Beyond the Wall with The Walking Dead. Essentially, it's the same thing. You merge those two shows together.
Just make it work.
And then we'll eventually talk about shows that merge together, aka Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Power Rangers.
That is 100% a fact.
It's not an extensive list, but I do think they've got some jammies on there. If you know about any
crossover events, let us know.
Crossover events of epic proportions. Don't give us any of that BS like, something on Nickelodeon. Give us the good stuff.
I'm happy to hear any of them. Did Drake and Josh have a crossover event? They probably did.
See, you just made me bite my own tongue. Yeah, let us know any crossover stuff.
iCarly and Hannah Montana.
Powerpuff Girls and Ed, and Eddie.
That'd be fucking sick.
That'd be dope.
I feel like, did they do a Dexter's Laboratory crossover? Let us know. They probably did. I feel like they did some type of crossover.
And if they did, we will let you know next time. We're right back in here for Good Taste Studios. And for all those with good taste, I'm Matt. He's Lenny.
Comment, like, share, subscribe. Hit us up on Instagram @For Those With Good Taste. On Twitter, still don't use it, @GoodTasteLive.
We're not using it because you're not subscribing. Hit subscribe. Show us how to use Twitter. Let us know what's going on.
Until next week, au revoir. We're out. Fook the Mayweathers.
Fook the Mayweathers, and he's speaking French. We're out.
For those with good taste.